So we are here. This is the Bullhorn Podcast, and we are here with Maria Sanchez.
And Tino Sanchez.
Yeah, and Tino Sanchez. Maria is an unofficial volunteer extraordinaire with the San Bernardino City Shelter, which basically means that she is a member of the public that just goes and does all the work that the staff refuses to do, pretty much. So welcome, Maria.
I am an animal lover. That's my background with this. I started out taking photos like how Josh does at the Carson shelter at Devore. And the people who were networking San Bernardino shelter contacted me a few times asking if I would start taking photos over there maybe like once a week. And I was warned against going there by people that know that shelter because they said Devore, San Bernardino made Devore look like a day spa. So it took me a couple, times them asking me to actually go down there. When I went there, it didn't look that bad.
Not to interrupt, but that's bad because if San Bernardino City makes Devore look like a day spa, then that's bad because Devore sucks.
Yes, Devore does suck. Well, when I first got there, I had no idea that what it was like there. It looked outside, just walking around, it looked to appear like clean. So I said, I'll come back here. And I started going every single day on my lunch break. I'd have an hour lunch break. I'd take 15 minutes to get there, half an hour at the shelter, 15 minutes back. And one Friday, I found a dog with an embedded rope in his neck, and I posted it on Facebook. They got many phone calls, many emails, and I got an email from the supervisor telling me that that video and my photos are, they're derogatory in nature, and he didn't want me to come back until he spoke to his supervisors. So that was the first time that I've gotten into it with this shelter.
Yeah, and I believe what they said was because I remember that. I remember the rope embedded in the neck because I did a video.
Yeah, we did a video on it.
You up basically and calling these guys out for what they're doing, but I think they said it was counterproductive to their mission statement or something. Which is essentially all you're doing is just going there and photoing and networking their dogs.
That dog was actually rescued, and the rescue still has the dog. It was pulled with the mother. They are both. Can you guys still see me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. They were both rescued together, and he still has them. He wants them to be rescued together, or in their forever home together.
So was this rescue as a result of your post?
Yes. These dogs were just plain, dogs, and they for sure would have not have been saved together. But the fact that they got so much attention, they were both saved together. But it's like now that they're out of the shelter, nobody cares about them. And the guy's like, what happened to everyone that cared about this dog? This is Ryan Long's letter. While I appreciate your dedication and talent, your videos have become counterproductive to our shelter's mission statement. With that being said, I will no longer be sending the Animals Without Pictures report. I am going to ask you not to return to the shelter until I have had the opportunity to speak with other shelter supervisors. The negative video and images are derogatory in nature, and I cannot continue to allow this to happen when it's tearing down shelter staff and morale.
A common theme happening in shelters where, that's why I asked you, did the dog get rescued, and was it as a result of your post? And it was. And they're all over Facebook, you see these urgent calls, urgent, this dog's going to be killed tomorrow, this dog's going to be put to sleep, all over the place. And it was weird because I'm in Vegas and I never see that. Actually, there's one person who does it now, but I found out that the people at the shelter here, which is LEAD, if you get that list, the kill list, and you post that, you're banned from going to help. And to me, it's wow. They're saying you're counterproductive, and the logical thing is if you've got people like you, like Josh, that want to go and take pictures and post and draw attention to these dogs that need homes and bring attention, and people come in and want to save these dogs, whether it's 15 minutes of fame like you were saying with the dog with the rope, everybody forgot, but we got the dog out of that situation, whether it's 15 minutes of fame or not, to have people go out of their way to come to the shelter and volunteer their time and take pictures. How could that be counterproductive? How could that be a bad thing? The only thing I can think of is the people with the money that are supporting or that are donating don't want to see kind of negative press. I mean, what other explanation could there be for someone coming down on you like that, coming down on Josh, and not allowing us in Vegas to post the kill list? I mean, I'm at a loss. I don't understand it.
Well, you know, he mentioned he'll no longer send me the animals without pictures report. What that is because at this shelter, if the dog was fearful, aggressive, injured, sick, or on a choke stick, it would have no photo. So I agreed when I started going down there, I'll take the photos. If you give me the list of the animals that have no photo, I'll take them, I'll email them to you, and then that's what they use for Pet Harbor pictures. Well, it was so much easier for me to do that if I had the kennel numbers. After he stopped sending me that list, I still kept doing what I was doing. He still kept uploading them, but he had me spend 10 minutes on the phone with one of his staff members giving me kennel numbers for those dogs. That's counterproductive.
We're talking about the dog with the embedded rope. Like, all you did was basically visit a shelter, and lo and behold, there was a dog there with an embedded rope, and you took a picture of it. That's not you trying to portray them negatively. That's just
I
you.
put the rope in that damn dog's neck.
Yeah, that's just you seeing a dog and it has a rope embedded in it, and you take a picture of it. You're not, I mean, you're just showing what's happening. They can't blame that on you, but that's what they do. They shoot the messenger, apparently.
Josh, when you got all this flack from, and then when your girlfriend, when Diana got the flack about trying to help, what's the explanation? I mean, is there, besides it's counterproductive, I mean, where is this coming from? That's my question. Is it coming from the donators, the people that are the money that don't want to see this kind of stuff? I mean, what's the mindset? I don't understand where people that want to help. And that video that you sent me from what was that that council meeting? What was that?
That was last week, San Bernardino City Council meeting.
I mean, all those people were saying the same thing. It's like nobody wants to be told what to do or how to run their business. But if you've got animals that need help and there's people that want to help, can't we just put that shit aside and get over our egos and stepping on the toes and just help the animals? I mean, it's not just with it just seems to be everywhere.
Man, because the system sucks and they desire no transparency. So when someone like myself or Maria goes in there with the intention of showing the dogs, we're obviously going to be on site. We're going to see what goes on with our own eyes, and if something bad goes on, we're going to post about it. If something good goes on, we're going to post about it. Unfortunately, more goes on bad than good at the shelter, so we're posting about more negative stuff. This is not our choice. This is just we're posting reality, and that's what ends up happening.
I used to just send out emails all the time exposing it, and Sergeant Fronti asked me, hey, can you stop sending those emails to this contract city? If you have an issue, come to me, and if I don't do anything, then I can see you going above my head to captain or the other cities. And so starting in November, I laid back on sending all those emails out to everyone. I'd send it to him. Him and I were having a really good working relationship. We donated anything that he needed. If he said he needed this, we raised the money and we bought it for him. And after this, the thing that whenever he was gone, like any type of issue that I had was when he would be off. And that whole thing with Sue, the first day when I was escorted off, I actually texted Sarge and I said, please tell Debbie, let me just spend this last 10 minutes with this dog. I said, she's trying to say she's going to call the police on me. And he tried to call in, and she didn't want to take his phone call. And so she wanted to show me that she was boss. And so I ended up getting escorted off. And after that, I pretty much told Sarge, he said he wasn't going to take either one of our sides. But then Friday when I called and I said, okay, I'm on my way, he's like, oh yeah, about that. You can't come for 72 hours.
Let's back up for the people that haven't seen the video, and then we'll post the video with it. Explain the Sue situation from the start, please.
Okay, well, on Saturday before, I'm not sure the exact date, but I was there on the Saturday before that Wednesday that I was escorted off. And it was right at closing, and I asked Brian Sampson, he's the office supervisor. I said, can you please get this dog treated? I showed him all of the mucus all around her kennel, and he said, yes, I'll make sure that she's being treated. I wasn't there Tuesday, but when I got there on Saturday, on Wednesday, you know, I took a few videos, and then I went around the corner and I saw that she was in a home finder kennel, which is not the kennel that I originally saw her in. So I'm thinking, oh, maybe she was adopted. I type in her pet harbor and I see she's still listed. So, and at this point, she was laying on the cold concrete floor, and I'm asking her, what's you doing on this floor? And I look over, and her bed is soaking wet. I look up, and it's black from where previously it had been, you know, raining, and it was moldy. And so right away, I go inside, and I ask the counter staff if she was on medication, and they said no. So then I said, I need to talk to Brian.
Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. It's like 4.5 days after you initially requested that she be put on meds.
Yep. And so.
What was wrong with Sue?
At that point, she probably was getting pneumonia. It was probably kennel cough, borderline pneumonia, because the fact that she was coughing, it was literally all over her kennel, the phlegm.
Oh, gee.
I went inside, and they called back to Brian's office, and Brian said, I'm in a meeting with Debbie. Tell her to go back out to the kennels, and I'll find her. So one of the kennel staff got Sue out for me. I had a blanket. He laid her in my arms. I went straight from her kennel and went down and sat on a bench around the corner from her kennel. And Brian comes out, and he's like, did you need to speak to me? And I said, hey, Brian. You know, I said it very nice to him. I said, this is the dog that I showed you that mucus. I said, I asked staff, and she said you never started her on treatment. And he's like, okay. And he didn't, you know, he wasn't saying, oh, I forgot nothing. He's like, okay, well, then she needs, if she's sick, she needs to go back in her kennel. And I said, I would like to sit with her until I leave. I said, I'm getting her videos. And he says, no, she needs to go back in her kennel if she's sick. I said, can you get her to the vet? He said, she needs to go back in her kennel. I said, okay, well, she's not going back in her kennel. He says, well, I disagree. He says, if you're not going to give her to me, then you're going to be leaving the unpopular way. After he walked away and told me that I was going to be leaving the unpopular way, that's when Debbie Shuker comes out. She's the operations manager, and she says, you know, give me the dog. I said, are you going to take her to the vet? And she said, give me the dog. She's like, are you refusing? I said, no. I said, but I want to know if you're going to take her to the vet. And she says, I will do with it what I need to do with it. Just hand her over. And I basically said, I wasn't refusing. You know, I just wanted her to agree to take her to the vet before I handed her over. So then all of a sudden, I'm sitting there with Sue, and I'm recording her, and 2 cops come walking up. And at this point, I'm like thinking, okay, I can't help this girl from behind, you know, bars. I'm not going to, you know, I'm not going to stir up any trouble. Everything's been going pretty well recently, you know. And so when the officers told me open up the blanket and hand her over, I did that. And they asked me to step off the property, and I did that, and I left. When I went back Friday, it was, well, I was told by Sergeant Frenty when I was on my way there not to come. But they didn't ask me not to come back on Wednesday. They didn't tell me, you know, I was breaking any laws. They didn't even explain to me why they were removing me. I just went with them because, I mean, why am I going to fight with them? They're closing in 5 minutes anyway. So the fact that they're saying they cited me on Wednesday and told me not to come back, and so I was trespassing on Friday, it's all bullshit.
Well, did you get an actual citation for that? Because I know Affronte said in the video you're breaking this code, and like when I looked it up, the code actually does exist. I mean, it's a completely unconstitutional law, but it is law there.
And it's San Bernardino City Ordinance Code. It's not like the state law. It's their own city ordinance. But no, I wasn't cited. I was willing to go, but I first wanted them to tell me what I was, you know, why. I said, okay, that's fine, but the last time didn't count. If you're saying I need to be away for 72 hours, that doesn't count because you didn't, I wasn't technically escorted off. Like I went without incident. I didn't give them any trouble. So,
well, yeah, and they have the ability to cite you because that's the interesting thing about San Bernardino City is the police actually run the shelter. So, I mean, if they wanted to cite you, they could have cited you right there.
No, they didn't cite me.
Wow, that's crazy. And by the way, before we started, and I said how you doing, Jailbird? That wasn't a dig. That's like a badge of honor, to get cuffed for something you believe in. I mean, I remember that picture of Diana. I don't know where I saw that, where she's getting escorted into a paddy wagon. Josh, is there a picture?
Yeah, that was her. She was protesting at Bank of America like 2 years ago.
Yeah, so my point was not to take a dig at you, Maria. That's like guys who do jiu-jitsu and they get the cauliflower ear. That's like a badge of honor. So no, I haven't been to jail for what I believe in yet, but I'm sure it'll happen.
I was so worked up. I have OCD, and when I focus on something, I'm focused as hell on it. And at that time, my focus was my phone, and I think you could tell from that video, my focus was that phone, because I had videos on there that I didn't want Sergeant Fronty deleting.
Exactly, and when I saw the video, like when I watched it, I knew, because people had a problem. Some people had a problem with like, well, why didn't she just leave? Like, why did she resist? And like, I watched the video, and I can tell automatically, like, you were focused on the phone because you didn't want. He picked your phone up, put it in his pocket, and you wanted your phone because they were probably going to take your phone in, delete whatever's off of it, potentially. I mean, who knows? Go through it. I mean, that's what you wanted your phone.
I have pictures on there that is not, that's not their business, as well as the video that I took of the confrontation. I wanted that, and as well, I took like a 12-minute video where 85% of the freaking kennels have shit in it. I don't know if you watched that, but this last time when they they invited Channel 7 to come tour their kennels, I actually had to call Sergeant Fronty because the networkers that were waiting to walk dogs, they called me and they said, oh, it's 11:20 and all of the kennels are shut. We can't see dogs. The doctors are thinking we work here, saying, where's all the dogs? So I called Sarge. I said, it's 11:20 and your kennels, the barriers are down. I said, the doctors can't see. I said, at 10 o'clock those should have been lifted. Oh, I agree. And he walks out there, and boom, 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 boom. They opened them all up. But guess what? Shortly after that, that's when Channel 7 showed up. And so I think they're making sure that the dogs didn't shit in their kennels so that they could, they'd be clean by the time the news got there.
To say that they didn't go out of their way to make it look as presentable as possible, I mean, that's obviously what's happening. If they have a heads up that Channel 7 is going to be rolling through, they're gonna actually do their job at that point.
If you want to see what San Bernardino City looks like on a regular basis, I posted that minute. It's 12 minutes. It's a long video, but I go through every single kennel. And like I said, 85–90% of the kennel has shit in it. It's disgusting on a regular basis. This is a funny story. I've actually gotten so upset one time where it was in the same condition and it was about closing time. Ryan Long was still working there. And I said, Ryan, are you going to make sure that your staff cleans all these kennels before they go home? And he says, yeah, we'll do that. I said, and they don't have water either. And okay, yeah, we'll clean it. All of a sudden, I see staff just booking it, like leaving. And I got pissed, so I called Sergeant. I said, hey, Ryan said he was going to have the staff get these dogs water. He was going to make sure that they clean their kennels. I said, everyone's leaving. I said, I'm sitting in front of the gate so no one else can leave. And he said, that's a felony. I said, wait a second. No one else has tried to leave since I've been sitting out here. I'm moving right now. So I was like, I had no idea I was committing a felony. He's like, that's false imprisonment. I said, I just want to make sure you understand that I have not been out here when someone's tried to leave. So quickly I moved, but he went down there, and he was on his day off. He was pissed off that he had to go down there, and he said to me that night, he said, Maria, I need you to start picking your battles with me. Every single kennel, 0 water, but in the morning they're going to fill it up. Are any of these animals going to die? And he made me, it's like, I shouldn't have to make that, think about it. Okay, yeah, maybe I am overblowing this for a second here, but I think that their jobs are to make sure dogs have water, dogs have clean kennels. They can't even do that.
Is there a shortage going on of staff, of volunteers? I mean, are they hurting for money? It sounds like the backwoods of like Arkansas kind of kennel. What's going on over there as far as money and staff?
I mean, they do have one opening for staff, kennel staff. They have someone, they're waiting to fill that. I just saw someone started on Saturday. They take so long to approve volunteers. They have to go through a very long process, and they're just taking their time. They're dragging their feet on it because there's several of my friends have put in an application and they want to do it, but as far as money, yes, the city's bankrupt, but I had told Sergeant Frenti, I said, we raised money to get them 3,000 tablets of doxycycline, 25, 50, and 100 milligrams. I told him, this is so that you can start treating these dogs once you see any sign of illness. I said, that way, once these rescues, I said, the way I did my fundraiser, I told them, this way the rescues, when they pull them, they're not already halfway to pneumonia and they're not spending thousands of dollars to fix these dogs. They'll be, already been treated by antibiotics. It's not the way it's working. You go in there and you say, hey, is this dog being treated? Debbie Schuker, if you ask her, she'll look up in the computer, oh, no, it's not being treated yet, but there is no interest. Okay, that doesn't matter, Debbie. I donated these, we donated these for the dogs that are sick, not the dogs that nobody wants, not the dogs that...
Just listen to that answer. It's like, well, we're not treating the dog because there's no interest in it. I mean, that's a shitty answer. Like, that's a real bad answer.
Yeah, it is.
She literally walked out of the conversation because I said, it doesn't matter. I said, Debbie, we have been getting these dogs out a week after their available date. Well, not very often. And so I just said, I'm done, like I said to the Brian, he was still new and he was still willing to help. I said, can you please check and see about this dog getting on medication? So he took the ID number and he started on treatment. And guess what? That dog got out. She really just doesn't understand that the law requires them to treat these animals, whether or not someone's coming for them or not. When they're laying in those kennels suffering, if they were in our backyard suffering like that, we'd be arrested.
Absolutely.
We'd be cited for, animal cruelty. They're not above the law. Just because they're ran by the police department does not mean they're above the law.
What actually happened when the video cuts off? Like after the dude's taken your phone and they've dragged you?
So what happened, they would not let them follow me out there. So they had to cut it off and run to the fence. But what you missed is he had me bent over, my arms were behind my back, handcuffed, and he had his arm like intertwined in mine, and he was lifting it up as high as he could. So I was literally bent, like was going wherever he was wanting me to go because I was in so much pain. And I was begging him, can you please stand me up? And he just kept walking. And the dumbass tripped over my feet. And we fell face first. He landed on top of me. And I have now a charge of assaulting a police officer.
I mean, that just shows how pathetic the process is of, like, regardless of whatever happened, and he probably did trip, but just the fact that he's going to take that incident and, like, escalate it to you assaulted a peace officer. Like, that's crazy.
I am not trying to get arrested over this, That's why the first time I went, freely. But that time, I literally didn't understand why I was being arrested. I was standing up for myself, and I kind of did flip out once he touched me. I admit it, and I used some muscles in my legs that I had not used in a long time, trying to grab that pole with that UGG.
After the fact, after that happened, and you would know better than anyone else because you are on top of that shelter like no one's business, like what, and understand that this is just your opinion, so you can't get in trouble, but what type of retaliation came after that? Because I noticed that you guys were talking about X amount of dogs were disappearing after that, and assumed that it was probably linked with the fact that it was retaliatory in some way.
Yeah, the next day they had killed 9 dogs. In the past, since November, if you look, there's a pattern where they've been keeping these dogs. Because I was working with Sarge, him and I were really, I thought having a great, working in, relationship. And so when he would kill dogs, it wouldn't be until he really needed to, whether he needed the space or if the dogs got really sick and, just no one was coming for them. And so there's sometimes 10 days. I saw the most that they killed them before they killed them would be 3 days, up to, anywhere up to even 2 weeks they say they kept these dogs. And all of a sudden after this happened, every single dog that was available to kill, they killed it. If it was available, they killed it. Whether it was just barely available that Friday, they killed it Saturday. And the same thing happened this week. They killed a bunch of dogs on their available day. There was 7. They killed them, and they were on 410, and they were only available on 410. 2 of them were rescued in February and March. They were brought back on 4-9, and one was like a bull terrier mix.
Yeah, I saw those.
The shepherd, they were making plans to pull it, and the bull terrier rescue was making plans, all the arrangements to pull the bull terrier. And they're angry because they thought they had until 4/16 to get those a plan together. Instead, they killed it. They're saying, when you call the call center, they say, oh, well, they were sick and they were aggressive.
Even if the dog came from the shelter, was rescued, and then returned later to the same shelter, they still have to hold the dog.
Yeah.
As like an owner surrender. It doesn't sound like they did that. It sounds like they just killed it off the truck.
They killed it the next day. Well, I photocopy, I do, cut and paste into a Word document, and then I print screen it to a PDF. Every single night I do that to Pet Harbor, the adoptable and the lost section. So I can go back later when I get the outcome list and I'm like, wait, this dog was never even on Pet Harbor. So if we see like a named dog and they're actually killing animals, owner surrenders upon intake, because Sarge Affronti thinks that the only documentation needed to kill the owner surrenders is seeing it aggressive, like their staff seeing it aggressive. I said,
No.
That's the beginning of your documentation, maybe. I said, it's not the only documentation. And he said, I disagree.
That's totally illegal. According to the Hayden law, they have to hold those dogs. Even if the owner brings the dog there and says, this dog is aggressive, we want it put down, they cannot kill the dog.
They are. They're killing it even if
I know they are, but I'm just saying they can't.
Do you remember the dog Ginger that I saved? She was an owner surrender. I actually was standing next to the owner when he said, I want my dog put to sleep. And I couldn't believe I was hearing those words. So I look around and I'm like, I don't see him with a dog. And I'm like, which dog are you talking about? I said, what's wrong with her? Is she sick? Is she injured? And he says, no, I just can't take care of her. He points to the corner and there's this dog scared to death sitting in the corner. And I'm like, oh no. So I sat down with her and, I took her video before he, was going to take her to the back. He drug her outside to take her in the back, but he requested her to be put to sleep. In a conversation I had with Sarge in his office, he said that on their fee schedule, it's $55 for them to surrender a dog. It's cheaper. He didn't tell me how much it was, but he says it's cheaper if they surrender it to be put to sleep.
Oh, wow.
And I said, okay, but if you see it's like a dog, like a good dog, and it's, you're not going to put it to sleep, right? He says, yes. He said, they are paying the city a service. We offer a service. They pay the money. He's like, we can't not do what they're paying the service for.
That's bull crap.
I said, do you remember Ginger, the one that I'm fostering? I said, that man asked you guys to put that dog to sleep. I said, had he said, I want it put to sleep and paid that cheaper fee, I said, would you have put her to sleep knowing now what a good dog she is and seeing her afterwards? And he said, yes, that is what he paid for us to do.
When you intervened, what ended up happening with Ginger? Because it sounds like she's safe.
She's sitting right in front of me on my bed.
Oh, you took her.
I took her.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
she had so many pledges that all the icky rescues were just coming out of the woodwork. And so I had Julie with Pet Connect. She pulled her, and I'm fostering her. At one of the council meetings, I asked the new city attorney, if his name is Gary Sines, I said, if I send you something, will you look into it? I said, because Sergeant Fronting says he's going off the direction of the prior city attorney. I said, he's breaking the law every day when he kills the owner's surrenders. He said, fine, you send me something in the mail. I don't do email. And if you do that, I'll give it to one of my attorneys and have them look into it.
Wait, who says they don't do email in this day and age?
The city attorney of San Bernardino City, Gary Sines.
How does he even do that job if he doesn't have email? That's crazy.
He has
ride a horse to work? Does he ride a horse and carriage?
He just didn't want me to email him. So guess what? I mailed him something. I did it with a return receipt. I got my little green receipt he's got it March 24th. And here it is the 13th. And I haven't heard anything back. And I asked Sarge, I told him, I mailed Gary Sines asking him if he can look into the law that you're breaking. I said, now if he comes back and tells you, yes, sir, you are breaking the law, killing these owner surrenders, will you stop? And he didn't have an answer for me. So I think it's bullshit that it's a cop-out saying he's going by the direction of the city attorney.
I think whoever runs against this guy in the next election should definitely bring up that he doesn't use email, because anybody who has that type of position and is fighting technology and fighting evolution needs to go away like the 8-track. That is ridiculous.
Going back to the retaliation or potential retaliation, seeing that that amount of dogs were killed the days following that event, has anybody made you feel like you were at fault for that? Like anybody online or any backlash that you've gotten?
Yes, absolutely, they have. In fact, one of their own volunteers has attacked me because of all of this stuff. She posted something about hating all the negativity and this and that. And her second comment was that I looked like an idiot because I was resisting the police. And then when I called her out, I said, "You've been volunteering at this shelter for how long? And you haven't said a word." And she says, "Well, Maria, at least my approach doesn't get dogs killed." And so is it just me, or is that an admission that they kill out of retaliation?
That's exactly what you said. But I mean, this is why the system and the shelter system never changes, because so many people are on the inside that see all this stuff. They're so in fear of speaking out. Nobody would do what you did. Nobody would stand their ground. Nobody would show this or that that's going to get them in trouble. No one's going to get arrested for something like that and continue to push against this, because like the system holds so much stuff over people's heads. Like they'll retaliate and kill dogs. So many volunteers won't speak out because they'll get fired. Rescuers don't speak out because they'll get their poll rights taken. And then so many people out of the animal community will make you, they'll talk about you as if you're like a bad guy because, oh, Maria got dogs killed by speaking out, and then no one wants to speak out. So this is kind of how they do it, how the system holds everyone down. More people need to do what you did.
Wait, so that woman said, at least my way doesn't get dogs killed. Are they, besides her, and what Josh just said, are they saying that what you did got dogs killed? Is that what's being said besides that one woman?
I've seen a couple different comments, but the first person that said this to me was myself. I felt guilty, and I felt like it was my fault, and I knew that this is what what happened because of the whole police coming and everything. But people called me and they calmed me down and they told me basically that if I don't say anything, they're just gonna keep killing dogs. And they're killing dogs anyways.
Feeling guilty is totally different. I mean, that's normal. That's a human response. I feel guilty. like this is what Carson started doing to me. And I don't go to Carson nearly enough as you go to San Bernardino. Like you're way outpacing me in regards to that. But this is what Carson started doing to me. When I photographed dogs there, I would usually post them on my timeline. They would start killing the dogs that I would post on that I was going out of my way to super network or put like a comment. Oh, this dog is the sweetest dog, blah blah blah. I'd write about it. The next day that dog would turn up dead. So
did you stop giving your personal opinion about those dogs when you post them? Did you just post
yes.
them? That's what I had to do. I had to stop saying anything about them. And in fact, I'd have rescues ask me, "Can you please do a temp test on this dog? As long as it's dog friendly, I'll pull it." And I would do it. I'd go on my lunch break, do a temp test. By the time I got back to work to upload that video, check Pet Harbor, the dog was dead.
Guilt in a situation like that, trust me, I felt the guilt personally. You feel the guilt, but that's totally different than looking at something and saying factually this happened because of this. Like those dogs were not killed because of you. You were there for the dogs. You're shining a bright light into a dark system. You're doing good, and if they want to do that in retaliation and response, that's on them. And if people in the public are so lazy and apathetic that they don't see that and they want to blame you, then they're garbage. They're trash, man. If they're saying that, they are apathetic trash.
Wow. Jesus. I went over to lead a couple of times here in Vegas when we were doing an event together before I knew what I know now, and I would go over there. Every time I'd go over there, I'd photograph all the pit bulls, and 40 at a time. And is this happening with other people trying to help? I mean, have you heard of this, Josh, of where just what you said, you post and the next day those dogs are dead? Is this what they do?
Well, I don't know. I mean, every shelter is different, and I can only really speak to Carson, which is pretty tyrannical, and Maria can probably only speak to the city and possibly Devore because that's the one she goes to. But like, I don't know. Okay, so let me rephrase that. This is to anybody who's listening, or who's made it this far in the podcast. If you are like Josh and like Maria, and you're volunteering and you're taking pictures to post to network, have you experienced what they're talking about? And that's what we want to know, because if that's happening, we need to shed light on it. So Josh, Maria was saying the same thing a little bit. Are you saying that when you would say and comment an opinion on a dog and how nice they were, that seemed to expedite the execution? Yeah. Both of you were saying that? Not all the time, because again, like when you put up pictures, it creates like the picture thread, and they're not going into the picture thread, at least I don't think they are, and looking at all the comments. But I'm saying when I would post photographs on my main sway love wall with like a plea, this dog is this, blah blah blah, it has X amount of dollars, it's so sweet, amazing, it's my favorite dog. I've seen numerous times where that dog has ended up dead the next day, and I've been told by people that have inns at LA County that they have a staff member that watches my page, like on a daily basis, in regards to what I'm saying. Like that's what people are getting paid to do.
I have police members, police officers watching my page.
They're basically getting paid to troll. They're trolling people's pages.
San Bernardino police officers came to my house twice. Once I wasn't home. The next morning they woke me up at 7:30, and they said, "We're coming over here to talk to you about Facebook." I said, "Okay." I said, "Is anything?"
I remember that.
I said, "Is any of this what I'm doing illegal?" And he said, "No, you have every right to do what you're doing." I said, "Then why are you here?" I said, "I really don't appreciate you waking me up before my alarm came off." I said, "And you want to come meet me at the shelter, that's fine. Send me an email if you have anything else to say. I'll send it to my attorney." I said, so that's pretty much all I have to say to you, and I shut the door. And do you want to know what's funny? I posted that card, that officer, his name was Vaughn. I looked up on Google. I was looking up, because Sergeant Fronty, he's shot like 6 people. That's why he's at the shelter. He was involved in a shooting And one of those other officers in that of the three in the shooting, Vaughn, I don't get intimidated very easily.
And they went to somebody else's house too, right?
Yeah, someone in San Diego, because she said something of, she said something everybody.
I'm watching Tino's face right now, and he's just in shock listening to this.
Yeah.
There's no better example of like what's the attempt to intimidate than having a cop show up at your door and being like, hey, did you post this on Facebook? I mean, what the heck? Let's quickly talk about the city council meeting that happened a couple of days later. I noticed by watching the video online that you did not get to speak, so I'm assuming they cut it off before your card was read, because I'm sure you put a card in, right?
Yeah, I was ready to speak. I had it all written down what I was going to say. Did you see the clip that's going around where the mayor says he wants to adjourn the meeting, and one of his council members says, well, we could just get off of the dog issue. And he says, we've heard enough of the dog issue. They said, well, they still want to speak. He's like, well, then you can just blame it on me. Watching
the feed, I picked up on that immediately, because it's like, I don't know if he assumed his live mic was just cut off, or like the feed wasn't going to pick that up, but I was like, did he just say what I thought he said? And rewind it. Yep, he said, enough about the animal issue, let's shut the public comments down. So is that something that, like, do they normally let public comments just roll until they finish, or do they actually legitimately have a time limit?
In fact, okay, so I don't know if you probably have never been to that city council, but in the same little corridor of that building is the San Bernardino Sun, and one of their reporters, Ryan Hagan, is at every single council meeting. And he came up to me afterwards, and he's like, whoa, so that was kind of weird. And I'm like, have they ever done that before? He says, not that I've ever seen. He's like, I'm here every council meeting. He says, I've never seen it get cut off at all. Like, not. And I said, have they ever cut it off at 8 p.m.? He says he's never seen it cut off at all. They could go up until 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, till the wee mornings of the night, and it's never cut off. But when it's about the animal issue, he had heard enough.
Well, I wonder if they hadn't had that, just in general, if they get that many public commenters, because I know, the issue being about the shelter, there was lots of people there to speak. I bet that's not a weekly thing. I know at Pasadena, when I go to their council meetings, if it's a non-agendized item, they have a 20-minute max for public comment. So, but one thing they do is if they have over, you get 3 minutes to public comment, so I guess that works out to like, what, 7 people. But if, say, like 20 people came in, they just lower the time limit. Instead of like cut people off, they just say, well, instead of getting 3 minutes, you're going to get 90 seconds. That's what they should have done if they had a limit. They should have let everyone speak still. Most of these issues are treatable things, like, and this is another bad thing about dogs that get put down. You'll see dogs, they normally say, well, why was the dog put down? And this goes for all shelters. Well, it's either space or they were sick. And you know how, like, they'll say sick to justify it, and you think, well, the dog really must have been really sick.
Right.
No, it had kennel cough. It was killed because it had kennel cough.
On the outcome report, it'll say contagious disease.
Right. I've noticed that Carson does this. Anytime they have to kill puppies, they just say all the puppies had parvo, like after the fact. No proof of them having parvo. They just said, well, they had parvo, so we killed them.
Do they have the snap tests over there?
I don't know if they have the test or not. You can ask them and you won't get any response. You actually have to do a public records request, and you'll just get back their impound paperwork, but it doesn't give any insight into an actual positive test happening. So you just kind of have to take their word that the test was given. But if they're not. But here's another question: if they're not giving basic medication for kennel cough, and if they're not giving just basic anything, how do they have money to give a parvo test? Like, that doesn't really add up to me. Another comment that was really interesting was Marla Tauscher's comment about how all the drugs that go in there kind of disappear. Like that, she was pretty much implying that there was some criminal activity going on, but if any of that's true, man, I don't know why that's not being investigated.
Well, I do a public record request every first of the month for the previous month's daily youth logs. So I have January 1st, 2013 through February 28th, 2014, and I'm waiting on March's. So if ever we need it, I have it available for,
Does that shelter have a vet, like a certified vet on site?
No. In previous council meeting, I think it might have been October, they approved to have 25,000 increase to a purchase order to General Dog and Cat, and that would be twice a week. He would go there for 2 hours. Well, when I started seeing a lot of sick dogs, I asked Sarge, how are these dogs getting so sick if Dr. Z is here twice a week? How come he's not administering, telling you guys to give them meds? Oh, well, we couldn't afford the twice a week, so he only comes once a week now. I said, oh, okay. So when I wanted a copy of the contract that they have between General Dog and Cat, and there is not one. They sent me an email. As I've already told you in the past, your October request, there is no contract with General Dog and Cat or San Bernardino City. I was under the impression you have to have a contracted vet or an RBT on staff, something. They have nothing. Nothing. Dr. Z doesn't really see half these dogs that are being medicated.
Well, so who then is euthanizing the dogs if there's no vet on site?
I believe as long as you take the euthanasia, the state humane class, learning how to euthanize the dogs, you can do it as long as you work for an animal shelter. I don't think it has to be under, but as far as who's buying the the drug, I don't know. I think it's Dr. Z that's buying the drug that they use to euthanize. In fact, somebody overheard Dr. Z yelling at Sarge the other day about the paperwork not being in order. And I wish I would have been there to figure out what they're talking about, but he was not happy because he knows a lot of this is coming down on his ass. If the shelter is not treating the dogs or if the shelter is doing something wrong, it's going to come back to him because they're using his prescriptions to get their medication. It's funny is one time I saw Dr. Z walking around the shelter, and I called him over and I showed him a picture of a dog, and I said, hey, what happened? Where were you when this dog was suffering? And there's literally mucus just dripping out of this dog. Oh, well, this dog was fine when I first saw it. I go, bullshit. I said, this dog did not get in this condition if you were here the day before. Oh, it can happen overnight. I said, cut it out. He goes, and he starts screaming at the top of his lungs. Are you saying I missed this case? I said, exactly. If that's what that's what I'm saying. So he walks away from me, and the next time he sees me, he's all happy, so friendly, because he knows that I can, stir up a lot of shit. If he's not doing his job, I'm going to make sure that everyone knows it.
Is there any insight into who did the quote-unquote death threat?
I don't believe that there was a death threat. I think that was just,
No, neither do I.
To take this, I know for a fact because they forwarded me an email where someone says, I hope you are raped by a BBD, stuff like that, they send. Some crazy person that saw my post and said, please email the shelter and beg them to get Sue on medication.
You're going to have that. It's like you can't control everybody's reaction. This is always, I tried to write about this, and it's like even if one person or two people do something, that does not demonize the entire group. But that's the way the media, that's the way ABC tried to spin it. Like when their story came on, they didn't even have anything to do with Sue, and this is what started the entire thing. All they're talking about is, well, the shelter responds, and they're getting death threats, and they have to now move their
job. Do their job. Sorry.
Well, no, this is what they said. We now have to use taxpayers' money to move their employees into hotel rooms, and they made it out to seem like, well, that's wasting taxpayer money. Okay, that was unnecessary to do, but what else is wasting taxpayer money is the fact that X amount of dogs are getting killed every single week and nothing is ever happening, but that's never pointed out.
Well, I actually called and I spoke to 2 different people because I didn't like what the first person told me, and I said, can you take down my contact information and allow me to send, get the email address to send you the email of video of the kennels 5 minutes before I was arrested. You want a story? You see what the shelter looked like 5 minutes before I was arrested, not what it looked like when you guys went today. And she says, we're not interested. We're not doing a follow-up on this story. And they said that they toured the shelter. We toured the shelter. And, there really is no reason for us to do a follow-up. I said,
they're not interested because they're doing a puff piece for the shelter. Like they're telling the shelter exactly when they're going to come. The shelter can prepare.
Basically, she told me the police contacted them. They were the ones that contacted. So that's, of course, why they knew. And they cleaned up the kennels really well.
What happened to Sue, Maria?
Sue was rescued by Coastal German Shepherd of Orange County. She's the last I saw, they were going to attempt to give her some more oral meds, and if she did well, then she'd be going to a foster because she was still at the vet. She had to be on IV for this entire time.
She's doing okay though, right?
Yep, she's doing okay.
Well, she's out of that place, right? So that's pretty good news right
and
there.
The cop told me as they were asking me to leave, this is the best place for her. I'm like, no, it's not.
Yeah, I saw that too. I was like, that is okay. In closing, what would you say to inspire potential whistleblowers inside the system, outside of the system, to come forth, to more of these people to come forth, because that's the only way things are going to change?
Well, in fact, I did not start going to the shelter to be a whistleblower, to find out anything about these people. I had no idea this was going on. I literally went there just to take photos, to attempt test dogs, stuff like that, something that was helping the dogs. And I found that I would get roadblocks. I would get treated poorly when I would say something about the shelter. But if I'm not saying something, there was nobody else. The people that were saying stuff about the shelter before me, they either moved away and forgot about it, or they were pretty much intimidated to leaving it alone. And it's going on 2 years in September that I will have been going there, and I told Sarge, I said, I'm not going anywhere. Like, I'm here for the long haul. I'll take anything that you do if you want to give me, but lay off of the dogs. And I'm just hoping that I can get back to, working with them. I don't have any, I'm not holding any grudges. When I was there Saturday, I was talking fine with Debbie Shooker. I was talking fine with Brian. I didn't have any issues with any of the staff, but I think that anybody that goes in there, and if they see something, they should tell the staff, and they should document that they told the staff. And if nothing is done, because that's what I try telling people, make sure that you tell them. And then once you tell them, if you see it's not being fixed, at least you know that you told them.
To anybody who's watching, who gets this podcast, that is in the shelter system, explain yourself. Explain how people like Maria and Josh and other people going to the shelters and taking pictures, explain to us. Come on. We're not working in sound bites. We'll let you talk. We'll get the word out. Everyone should be focusing on the big picture, helping animals, saving animals, doing the right thing. So my question is I still pose the same question. What does this hurt? Attitude or not? If you don't like Maria, if you don't like Josh, that's got nothing to do with it. Let's say that you hate Josh because of the way he wears his hats. Okay, forget about that. Let's talk about where his heart is and where your heart is in getting involved in the shelter system, and let's meet there. Let's forget about the labels and the attitudes and whatever else you don't like. Let's meet in the middle and see how we can work together. And my invitation is to anybody who works in the shelter business or who knows somebody, you want to come on, if you want to be in shadow form, where we disguise your face and disguise your voice and you want to blow the whistle, that's fine too. My question is, how is this hurting? And why would you want to stop people from doing this when it ultimately saves lives?
Stay on top of them, and like, I've been following you for numerous years. You are exactly the type of advocate these animals need, because when you're intimidated, you don't back down. It makes you double down. And that's exactly where I'm coming from, and that's where more people need to come from. And if they do kill more dogs in retaliation, it's not your fault. It's theirs. That's their choice. They chose to kill, and keep going. Move forward. Keep moving forward. That's really all we have to do. All we can do, really.
The Sue situation, everyone's like, well, why didn't she take Sue home? But I have dogs here, and I took Ginger home. I can't take every dog home, people. Like, I can't.
Yeah, that's just a tactic to get you to shut up. It's basically some lazy person behind a computer. Oh, if she wants to complain, she should come to the shelter and adopt a dog. Like, you know, I'm told that so many times. Thanks for talking with us, and thanks for doing what you do.
Yeah, I love your hair, by the way.
Oh, thanks. I don't know if you can see, I got a paw print on there.
Got what?
Can you see the paw print?
Oh, I got one of those too.
It's shaved in there. Right on.
Awesome. Great. You're a great person with a great haircut, and you do great things.
Haircut.
And we're glad to have you.
Hair out, Josh?
What was that?
Are you growing out your hair?
I am. My hair is on the way. My hair is on the way out now. So it'll take like a year and a half to get to where it was, but that's where I intend for it to be. So.
Well, you know, I'm gonna grow it back eventually, but I just dread the grown out stage. I'm gonna look like really creepy.
I dread the mid stage. I love my shaved head and I love my long hair, and I dread everything in between. And that's the worst part about it. Is it takes so long to get long, so you're just kind of wearing hats all day every day.
I can't wear a hat. I can't wear a hat.